Okay, John Gregory, you had one of the oldest cars, I think the oldest car in the rally.
That's right.
What car was it? It was a Porsche, but what year?
It was a 62 model, Super 90 Porsche, which belonged to my friend here who was driving with me. We deliberately picked on the car because it was a suitable car for this particular exercise.
What about mechanical problems? Have any on the way over?
Well, we didn't think we would have, but we did. We fitted a new generator to the car before we left Melbourne, and it turned out to be a dud, and by the time we hit Barry, it had given up. Up on us.
What particular route did you take? Because everybody was able to choose their own shortest route, but they had to pass through 2 checkpoints before getting to Perth, didn't they?
We did, yes. My mate was doing the navigating and I was doing the driving, so don't ask me where we went because I only drove and he told me where to go. So we did pick on a couple of different routes, which did save us a bit of time. We took a route parallel to the Calder Highway, which is a wheat farm route, a fairly straight, no cars whatsoever. We really hit peak, say 120 mile an hour through there.
That fast? Well, speaking of speeds like that, I mean...
Wait a minute.
You were driving, were you?
I wasn't driving the car.
What about, did you get pulled up at all across the trip?
No, well, yes, we did. We did get pulled up. But they overestimated our speed most of the time. We tried to keep to the speed limit. As soon as we crossed the border, we really drove very slowly because the generator had gone. We didn't have a good light.
What are your views? Because, I mean, in Europe, races like this are pretty common. I mean, they've been running for like 15, 20 years. What are your views on what you think of something like a rally like this?
I think, now, this is our crew, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I think rallies like this should happen, but they should be better organised to the extent where the people, you know, like the law, say CAMS and other organisations are in the know or are, you know, at least in agreement, because this gives the whole thing a lot of bad publicity.
Yeah. What about the view of, remember the London to Sydney marathon rally they had, and also the Round Australia rally?
Yeah.
I mean, by the same token, those cars were doing speeds of the same calibre that maybe these cars were doing, but there wasn't the fuss at the time.
No, because the public had accepted the idea, because it was all organised by the motorsports authorities all over the world. People look forward to these things and take them as you go to a game of football. But when a rebel group like the organisers of this particular event take upon themselves to do this sort of thing, first they don't let the public know, then every other authority really kicks up because they haven't got a hand in it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll leave you to have your dinner.
Yeah, I
think... You're driving home?
No, I'm not. I'm flying home, putting the car on the train. I haven't got a light.
Now, I mean, a suit and tie doesn't really look the kind of a tie that you'd drive a car across the Nullarbor. What type of car were you driving?
Falcon. 6-cylinder, nothing special.
Why did you actually go in the rally?
Spirit of adventure. No hope of winning it. Something to do.
What about your compatriot beside you as well? Was he in the rally also?
We felt we ran a car. We spent a lot of money on it. We ran the black Trans-Ost. You might have seen the Black Beast, they call it, and we had every policeman through 4 or 5 states chasing us.
How did you find your run-ins with the law on the way across? Because I believe most competitors actually got looked at or pulled over at least once or twice.
We got pulled over 9 times. We never got booked, and I must say that the police behaved in a very friendly manner, but they did hold us up.
What about yourself? Do you have any mechanical problems in the car on the way over?
None at all. None at all. Didn't even have a fan belt or a radiator hose with us or anything, just fuel.
Yeah, a lot of people say they had a lot of trouble getting fuel across the Nullarbor, especially like having to wake up petrol stations to try and refuel at early hours in the morning.
A lot of them didn't do their homework and work out where the all-nighters were. You had to have sufficient fuel to make one long haul, which was into Port Augusta, but otherwise you could pull up every 300k.
What about the route that you took? Because each person was entitled to take their own shortest route, but they had to pass through 2 checkpoints before getting to Perth. So which route did you take?
2 checkpoints. We left the start and double back, went across the Ballarat Highway and up through, or virtually the back end, rather than coming through the Calder Highway to Oyong, I think most of them went. Some of them went to Mildura. Then we just followed the main road.
Are you going to drive home?
We're debating. Debating. Probably. We'll make up our mind after tonight.
What about next year? If they hold a rally similar to this, another Cannonball rally, would you enter next year?
Oh, you should have another go. Yeah,
What
we'll
about
try
you?
A little bit harder next year.
Would you enter yourself?
Well, next year's another year. We'll see about that.
You might be dead. I'd have a heart attack between times.
Thanks, guys.
God bless you.
Excuse me, Reverend, you don't look like the guy for a leisurely drive across the Nullarbor.
I control. I sort of took care of the blessing of all the cars as I left.
What kind of car were you driving?
Well, the stock is in. I wanted to keep it as innocent looking as it was.
What kind of car?
It was a Ford, just an old 67 Ford, Chrysler. Never put a spanner on it. No worries. By
What
the
about
blessing of the
problems?
Lord?
What about problems incurred on the way?
None, not at all.
You weren't pulled over at all and asked how fast you were doing?
With this, it will pull me over.
Need more than that. You don't need him.
When you're ready.
Now, obviously, you didn't get permission to get off work to actually go on the Cannonball run, did you?
No, that's correct.
What kind of car were you in?
Ford.
It wasn't a company car, was it?
No, not a company car.
How did you find the trip itself?
Very enjoyable, exciting, thrilling, very thrilling. A challenge, really.
Do you know where you've actually finished in the race?
No, not quite. We got in very early, I know that much. We didn't win, I know we didn't win the race, but, well, we might fill a place.
What about problems on the way over? Did you incur any big
Yes,
problems?
we had a few problems. We picked up a load of fuel in a town on the other side of Euclid there, and full of rubbish, and blocked our fuel lines up. And it cost us about 2 hours. We had to unblock the lines. We've got approximately 70 litres in the fuel tank now, which is unusable. We'll have to filter it, siphon it, and do everything to it to make it usable again.
Oh, quick, cover your eyes. I mean, you know what the boss will say. Are you going to be driving home, or are you going to put the car on the train?
No, we're driving back.
Is it the kind of thing that you'd do again?
Certainly. I'll be here next year if I have another one.
Oh,
This time I'll make it legal and I'll get the time off.
The amount of cuts I got, fair dinkum. I sat there for an hour and a half in the tissue.
Right, there we go. Speaking of competitors that actually made it to Perth, but not necessarily in the vehicle that they started with, you come under that category, don't you?
We do actually. We got pulled over in Balladonia, and they put a red sticker on us, which means tow away or leave where it is.
Now, where's Balladonia?
Balladonia, that's about 200 k's before Norseman. And
Where's Norseman?
Norseman, oh geez, now
This side of the Western Australian border or the Adelaide side?
Definitely Western Australia, the Western Australian cops, just the pits as far as I was concerned, as far as any other driver in this rally was concerned, as far as I was concerned. But they pulled us over.
For what reason did they pull you over?
Well, it's a stupid reason. We had a radar detector. It detected the radar. I thought my mate said stop. We were suffering a lot from brain fatigue. And I could have sworn he said stop, so I stopped. And anyway, the coppers pulled up in front of us, pulled over another guy, and we whacked her into first, and I was just ready to blow and take off. But they waved us down, and that was it. We lost an hour and a half easy there, while the copper just went over the car and picked stupid little things which were legal in Victoria, but apparently are illegal in Western Australia.
Like what?
Well, our exhaust pipe, that comes in Victoria, it's supposed to come 14 inches behind the last opening window, right, which it was, 2 inches out of the body. Ours was 1.5 inches out of the body. Just last opening window, isn't it? Well, like that.
So trivial things.
Yeah, it's just like we bought tyres 5 days before we left, fitted them, had them aligned, had them balanced, everything, and he told us we'd bought racing slicks and carved our own tread in them. They were Yokohamas, and there's no way known. It would have taken us 3 days each tyre to do a carve in them, so he's just totally stupid.
What about the car that you actually finished the race in?
Well, actually it was a Commodore, which, well actually after we got the car off the road, we hitched a lift, and we got a lift in a Commodore, We got to Albany, which is the second checkpoint. We got into a Falcon wagon, one of the film crew's cars, which was a hire car. And when we got to the finish at Fremantle, the organiser told us to jump into this Commodore, so we jumped into it and went back to the motel and just had a beer. What else can you do at the finish, you know?
What about your trip home? How do you intend getting your car back to Victoria?
Well, hopefully David, the organiser, will organise something about that, but if not, we have a truck organised, $200, and they'll take it to our doorstep from Balladonia.
You're going to go next year's race if they have one? Or you couldn't call it a race, it's sort of more like a rally, isn't it?
It is more of a rally than it is a race, because, I mean, you're sitting on speed limits, you're taking risks, you're just taking so many risks. Like, we got pulled over 3 times, the 4th time, that was it, we're off the road, you know, so there's a lot of guys got busted, really busted, and locked up, bailed out, and just everything. But we were lucky in that aspect, like, we were threatened to be locked up twice, but we didn't get locked up, thank God for that. But, well, we made it to the finish, so next year, hopefully, we'll be in it again and we'll just take out that, whatever the prize money is.
In a Gemini, maybe?
Well, we've been thinking over the last couple of hours of taking something more stock standard than what we took. Like, excuse me, the car that we took stood out like dog's balls, right? It did, it really did. And a lot of the Commodores and that, they were pretty cool. They didn't get pulled over, or they got pulled over, but they didn't get as busted as many times as we did. They were just smooth running cars, where ours was sort of very loud inside.
Very Mad Max, you'd probably say?
All right, you want to put it Mad Max way, we'll put it Mad Max Claude de Cray, whatever, you know. I mean, you can't really go into that, can you? But
why don't you pull your head in and have a beer? Oh, sorry. You're actually taking part in a car that was sponsored by 6PR, a local radio station in Perth. How did you find the rally itself?
I think it was great. I think the significant part of the whole rally is that, okay, people are making a lot of noise about being illegal, but it's very significant, I think, that there wasn't one bent guard in out of the whole 44 competitors, or 46 I think it was.
How did you find the going for yourself? Is it a brain drain? In other words, like there's a lot of hours spent behind the wheel. Is it very tiring?
Sure. Well, funnily enough, these guys will tell you that I figured last night we got to with Albany, and it was almost like being home. And then you look at it, the equivalent trip was like going from Melbourne a couple of hundred miles north of Sydney, and you think, well, gosh, I really wouldn't want to do that. And then I thought, we nearly are there, and I had 10 minutes sleep, which I'd been getting 10 minutes all the way through. But this time I'd really collapsed, and I got out of the car and I didn't really know where I was. I didn't know these guys. It really took me another 5 or 8 minutes to orientate myself and get myself back into gear. So yes, I guess it knocked me around to that extent, but certainly I enjoyed it.
What about mechanical problems? Were you in a stock standard car?
Yeah, ours was very standard, which I think is the secret. I've been involved with motor racing for a long time at all sorts of levels, and the closer to standard you are, the more reliability you have. There's no doubt about that.
Did you have any problems on the way over?
No, we didn't.
What about fuel?
We had twin fuel tanks with twin fuel gauges and shut the top fuel tank off when there was roughly 4.5 litres a gallon left. So that was the emergency bit. Then we ran the 12-gallon tank until it was empty, still allowing, with looking at maps and like that, allowing for the fact that we may have to go some further distance, but that was the emergency bit. So no, we didn't run out of gas.
What about your views, if you've been associated with motor racing, in regard to early rallies that were held in Australia, like the London to Sydney rally and also the round Australian?
I think, well, the London to Sydney rally, I did start rallying before I started open wheeler racing. I think the London to Sydney rally inspired me to do this thing. And in fact, it's a sort of a tortoise and a hare job, except this time the hare won. I really believed that reliability was the answer to it, but no, you have to go hard as well.
Do you think it's wrong? I mean, in Europe, rallies like this are held regularly for the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
Do you think that maybe the publicity and stuff associated has been bad?
There were all sorts of things wrong in Australia in the early years. People, when my parents first came to Australia, nobody drank wine in Australia. You know, you were a wog. But that's changed. Things will change. No, it's not wrong. There was nobody hurt in this thing, and as I say, there's not even a dented mudguard.
So you think it's a good idea?
I think it's great, and it's encouraging people to learn a little bit more about motor cars. There's more to it than just turning the thing on and driving from A to B.
You in it next year's?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I love it.
Great, thanks a lot. Change the thing. I haven't got any pictures. No, mate, sorry.
Sign.
Okay, talking to another couple of drivers here. How did you actually find the rally yourself?
Very, road maps were a bit of a problem. Fuel depots were a bit of a problem.
No other problems apart from that?
The fuzz.
What kind of run-ins with the law did you incur?
Just to pull over, check the licence. We're under the speed limit and they pulled us over.
What about the actual idea of a rally from one side of Australia to the other? Would you see it as a lot of fun?
It was terrific, yeah. That's all we originally went into it for. Just seen it in a magazine one day. I got the magazine, thought it over overnight and said, yeah, always like to drive across Australia, why not?
Did you use
The biggest problem we had was the police hassling us the last 1,300 kilometres. I don't know if they seemed to pick us out of the mob or not, I don't know why.
Wouldn't it be what you were driving? Was your car a stock standard car, or was it...
Standard car. Virtually standard car. But just with an extra couple of lights packed on, just to give us a bit extra safety for night driving, that's all.
Did you have any run-ins with animals on the way? Like across the Nullarbor, it can be pretty treacherous with kangaroos and other wildlife.
Yes. Only one galah. Yeah, galah. He put a dent in the bonnet, that's about all.
So you got to have pretty unscathed for the whole trip.
Oh yeah, it's hardly mark on the car, it's good.
Just council workers.
Yeah, we never got us a council worker in one place.
What about next year's rally? Would you be entering in next year's and do it again for the same fun?
We'd have to think about that, wouldn't we? But it was a fun trip just across Australia. I've always wanted to drive the Nullarbor.
So it's a dream come true.
I've driven the Nullarbor, a bit of a dream, but it's just, it was another thing I had in mind at one stage too, but I won't talk about that.
What about the drive home? You're going to drive home and put the car on the train?
No, we'll drive home, yeah. It's a Ford, no, we love driving.
Thanks, guys. Now, okay, out of the Cannonball Rally, you guys here are nicknamed the Newlyweds. What's the reason for that?
Oh, well, we sort of did the car up like we were just married. It's a little Mazda 626, stock standard fuel tank, and a 20-litre jerry can, and that's how we did it.
Now, what happened? Did you guys get pulled over at all?
Oh, we got pulled over 3 times, but every time we got pulled over, the cops couldn't stop themselves from laughing because it was just looked so funny. Look,
who was wearing the dress?
He was. Look at the fingernails. Check the fingernails out.
So
it was a real classic. It really
you actually lived the part.
Well. Yeah, we worked it right out. We had it all worked out, what we're going to do and everything. So it really worked well.
Now, did you actually dress up as a girl for the trip?
Yeah, they'll have it on film.
Yeah, all the way, from Melbourne to Perth.
All the way, fancy dress, all the way.
Gee whiz, I mean, that's unique. Do you think that your disguise helped you to get over here without being hassled as much?
Yeah, I know, well, for sure. We started off 26th and we come in 7th.
Not bad,
with a stock standard car, mind you. 4-cylinder. The only 4-cylinder to get in the top, probably top 20 or 30 cars.
Did you check into single rooms when you got in?
No, we got double. We wanted the honeymoon suite, but they wouldn't give it to us.
Because you weren't married?
Yeah, and then they found out, well, I thought I'd better let my wife know that we'd made it, and then I got all, so I went off him a bit, because we had no ring anyway.
So you're going to enter next year the same type of situation?
Oh, no, we'll have to think of a new one next year.
Get divorced,
Yeah, get divorced. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah.
Excuse me, as members of the media, in your opinion, what do you think of the media's coverage of the Cannonball Rally?
Well, it's a bit hard to cover something like this when not being able to speak to anyone or to find out what's going on. Perhaps you'd be able to tell me something.
Well, I'm not. I'm only here talking to find out what's going on myself, you see.
Right.
Okay, what about in reference to the local police force? Have you been able to get any information from them?
Well, apparently the police didn't know it was happening, which conflicts to what the organisers say, because they said they've liaised with all the police forces throughout Australia.
I mean, could you explain, it's very hard to explain the number of police cars at certain designated areas along a well-known route of the rally and have the police turn around and say that they didn't know it was on.
Well, that's what they're telling us. They didn't get any official explanation or information on what was happening. So I guess they must have known where the cars were going.